Exploring the depths of the world's most infamous prisons reveals a dark aspect of our society, the existence of correctional facilities where conditions are extremely harsh and often dangerous to life. These prisons became well known for their overcrowding, rampant violence, and draconian treatment of prisoners. Each facility represents a bleak chapter in the annals of incarceration, underscoring the pressing need for reforms to safeguard the well-being and security of prisoners. In this video, we'll reveal the alarming facts about these prisons, shed light on the problems they face, and persistent calls for change. La Sabanita Prison, Venezuela. Venezuela's La Sabanita prison, ranked among the worst in the world, is a good example of the dreadful condition of many correctional facilities. With a capacity designed for 700 inmates, it currently houses a staggering 3,700 individuals, exacerbating issues of overcrowding and making maintaining order a near impossible task. Chronic understaffing, with a guard-to-inmate ratio of 1 to 150, coupled with limited resources, further compounds the challenges. Within its walls, violent gangs reign supreme, transforming the prison into a lawless and perilous environment. The cycle of violence within La Sabanita seems unending, as clashes among inmates erupt frequently due to the intolerable living conditions. The combination of overcrowding, resource scarcity, and heightened levels of violence renders La Sabanita prison a hazardous and inhospitable setting. The inability of the prison system to exert control fosters an atmosphere of anarchy. Black Dolphin Prison, Russia. Located near the Kazakhstan border, the Black Dolphin prison has gained a reputation as one of the most notorious prisons in the world. Housing some of Russia's most dangerous criminals, including pedophiles, cannibals, and terrorists, it exemplifies the severity of the country's penal system. Upon arrival, inmates undergo blindfolding and handcuffing to prevent familiarizing themselves with the prison layout, minimizing chances of escape. Inside, conditions are abysmal, with overcrowding exacerbating an already harsh environment. Prisoners spend almost all of their time in their cells, which causes deep psychological distress akin to feeling like a lifeless machine. The scarcity of staff and resources renders enforcing order nearly impossible, allowing gangs to wield significant power and perpetuate a culture of violence and lawlessness. Black Dolphin Prison epitomizes the brutality and inhumanity pervasive within the global prison system, where individuals are stripped of dignity and left to endure inhumane conditions. Gitarama Central Prison, Rwanda. Gitarama Central Prison stands out globally as a nightmarish correctional facility, primarily due to its staggering levels of overcrowding. Designed for 400 inmates, it grapples with an overwhelming 7,000 detainees, highlighting a severe lack of space as its foremost challenge. Prisoners endure unimaginable conditions, forced to endure hours standing upright or cramming into packed quarters whenever possible. The consequences of such overcrowding are dire, resulting in a humanitarian crisis within the prison walls, with many succumbing to diseases and suffocation. In Gitarama, the scarcity of space translates to a loss of discipline, health, and ultimately, lives. It's a place where human suffering knows no bounds, and the harshness of conditions exacerbates the plight of inmates. Camp 22, North Korea. Camp 22 is a chilling political prison characterized by extreme isolation and brutal treatment of inmates. Spanning over 87 square miles and encircled by electric fences and armed guards, it holds an estimated 50,000 prisoners, many facing lifelong detention for political dissent. Once inside, inmates endure unimaginable suffering, living in near-starvation conditions and subjected to constant brutality. Criticism of the government is met with severe punishment, condemning prisoners to a life of anguish and despair. Camp 22 stands as a grim testament to the worst examples of human rights violations, with its vast size, stringent surveillance, and cruel treatment of captives epitomizing the horrors perpetrated in the name of political control. It serves as a stark reminder of the systematic deprivation of basic rights and dignity inflicted upon individuals. Diyarbakir Prison, Turkey. Since its establishment in the 1980s, Diyarbakir Prison has garnered a notorious reputation as one of the world's most dreadful correctional facilities. Situated in the southeastern region of the nation, it has been likened by its inmates to a living hell. The conditions inside are appalling and shockingly cruel. Prisoners endure extreme depression and hopelessness, prompting some to resort to drastic measures such as hunger strikes or even suicide in attempts to draw attention to their plight. These desperate acts serve as chilling testimony to the horrific conditions prevailing behind the prison walls. Despite the outcry and appeals from prisoners, the Turkish government has failed to solve the problem of atrocities unfolding in Diyarbakir prison. The absence of meaningful intervention perpetuates a cycle of suffering, leaving inmates trapped in a nightmarish existence. Mendoza Prison, Argentina. Argentina's Mendoza prison has become synonymous with unimaginable horrors, where humiliation, torture, and death are commonplace. Originally designed for 600 inmates, it now houses 1,600, resulting in severe overcrowding and shortages of essential supplies. In 2005, Amnesty International denounced the deplorable conditions within Mendoza prison, shedding light on the grim reality faced by its inmates. Many prisoners, particularly those awaiting trial, emerge from its confines having endured brutal treatment and abuse, often in worse condition than when they entered. Tragically, even the prison guards contribute to the suffering, known for their violence not only towards inmates but also their families. This culture of brutality perpetuates a cycle of despair and anguish. Mendoza prison stands as a stark example of the failures of the Argentinian justice system, underscoring the urgent need for reform to ensure that such atrocities are halted and that every individual is treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their circumstances. Rikers Island, New York. Rikers Island is infamous for being one of the world's most dangerous prisons, surpassing even the most violent streets of the city. Incidents of violence among inmates are alarmingly frequent, turning it into a nightmare for those incarcerated. In response to the crisis, city officials have implemented stringent measures to reform conditions within Rikers Island, transforming it into one of the country's most strictly controlled prisons. SWAT teams have been deployed to tackle widespread violence, including riots that have plagued the facility. These teams conduct daily searches of prisoner cells, confiscating hundreds of weapons. Remarkably, these efforts have led to a significant reduction in the incidence of violence, from approximately 1,000 cases to around 70 compared to the previous year. However, despite these measures, Rikers Island remains emblematic of the shortcomings of the American prison system, where violence and brutality are rampant, and the safety and well-being of inmates are often neglected. The enumeration of the world's worst prisons unveils the stark reality of inhumane conditions, violence, and systemic failures inherent in the global prison system. From the overcrowded and lawless confines of La Sabanita prison in Venezuela to the draconian regime of Black Dolphin prison in Russia, each institution represents a dark chapter in the treatment of prisoners. These prisons serve as poignant reminders of the urgent necessity for reforms to ensure the preservation of the fundamental rights and dignity of all individuals.